How's it going, guys? It's K Cars, and in this video I'm going to be talking about a few things that you should look out for before buying a Jeep Cherokee XJ. So let's jump right into the video. So this is my 2001 Jeep Cherokee XJ. I just got this thing about half a year ago, and I'm extremely very happy with this thing. I got it for $3,500, and it was owned by an older lady, so I'm really happy about that because I'm pretty sure she took pretty good care of it and didn't beat on it. I feel like I definitely got a pretty good deal with this thing. Of course, the number one thing that you guys should probably be aware of when looking for an old XJ is, you guys can probably guess it, it's going to be rust. So from the outside, this Jeep looks very clean. You can barely see any rust. The only thing that's actually visible without looking very carefully is this patch of rust on the driver's side rocker here. I'm definitely gonna have to get that thing fixed, but like I said, that is the only place that's visible on this Jeep from the outside that has rust. So just gonna take a quick walk around and show you guys if there really isn't too much visible rust. Like you can see, this passenger side rocker looks pretty clean. Moving around, you really can't see too much rust except for that little hole on the driver's side rocker. That's not really a huge problem, but the problem comes when you actually look underneath it. So hopefully you guys can see that pretty well, but that is my driver's side leaf spring in the back here. You can see it is completely flat and rusted out as well. Then here's a look at the front of the Jeep. You can see it's also pretty rusty. So even if the Jeep looks clean from the outside like this one, you definitely want to take a look at the underside. If it's completely rusted out, especially the frame, then I probably wouldn't get one like that unless you want to fix it up or get a shop to fix it up. If they do have a good amount of rust, then the good part about that is that you can probably find one for cheap if you don't mind all the rust. If you're actually looking for an XJ, like a clean XJ that's going to last you a long time, then you definitely want to take a look at the frame and the whole underside of the vehicle, just to make sure that there's not a huge amount of rust. So obviously with this one, there is a good amount of rust on the underside, but the frame itself isn't that bad actually. Just looking down here, you can see that the frame really isn't too bad. There's the rocker, that is pretty bad, but just the frame itself really isn't that bad, and that's the most important thing to look out for when looking for rust. So my goal with this Jeep is to get rid of all the rust and get it undercoated before this winter, which gives me several months. Right now it is September, so several months to get that done. First, I do want to get this thing lifted and get wheels and tires for it. Hopefully that will be coming soon. The only problem right now is that the lift kit I want to get has been out of stock for the past few months, so I really can't do anything right now. And I do want to wait to get this thing undercoated until after I get the lift installed, just so all the new parts of the lift can also get undercoated. The lift kit that I do want to get does come with brand new leaf springs, shocks, control arms, so those will all be going out and getting completely replaced. As you saw in the back, those leaf springs were completely rusted out and completely flat as well, so that'll definitely be a huge upgrade. But talking about that actually brings me to my second point that I did want to talk about. Another thing that you want to look out for when looking for an old XJ are the leaf springs in the back. So the XJs are known for sagging in the back a little bit. I told you guys that the rear leaf spring in my Jeep is completely flat. So like I said, they are known for sagging in the back because those leaf springs go flat. As you can see, this one is sagging a little bit. It's not terrible, but you can compare it to the front here. That's not a huge difference, but visibly, if you look at the leaf spring, it is completely flat. So it definitely is sagging a little bit. If you are looking for an XJ and you're planning to keep it stock, then you probably do want to pay more attention to the rear leaf springs just to make sure it's not sagging like this one. But since I am planning on doing a 3-inch lift and completely replacing the rear leaf springs, then it's not too big of an issue for me right now. You definitely want to make sure that the leaf springs are not flat and that the rear end of the Jeep is not sagging, or else you're going to end up looking like those trucks from South Carolina or wherever they are. Another place that the Jeeps tend to get rust is on the bottom of the door sills right here. As you can see, that's there is a good bit of rust down here, and then the door jambs as well. Now I actually did fix up the front so I can show you guys what that looks like and just compare it. So as you can see, here's my front door. There's not really that much rust here. It is starting to kind of come back. I don't know if you guys can see that, but in the crack right there, it's starting to come back. The door jamb, just look at that. And I did also replace the screws on this plastic part right over here. So I think it definitely looks a lot better like that. just comparing it to the back. I definitely do want to do the back as well. All I did for this was I just sanded it. First I used sandpaper, and then I used a Dremel tool to sand off all the rust. I used primer that's supposed to prevent rust, and then I just used I think it's called Duplicolor paint. So this paint coat is Patriot Blue, so of course that's what I use, just like spray paint. And yeah, it seems to be holding up pretty well. You can definitely see like the edges and borders of the original paint and where I painted. Then also, like I said, in the bottom of the door sill, you can kind of see where the rust is coming back, like right there. You can see that pretty well. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is oil leaks. So of course, old Jeeps like this are most likely going to have an oil leak. It's very common for them to have an oil leak. And I have heard that the main cause of that problem is the rear main seal. Whenever I got this Jeep inspected, it did pass, thankfully, but they did recommend that I replace the rear main seal as well as the valve cover gasket. I did replace the valve cover gasket, and I did a whole video on that if you guys want to check it out. I have not replaced the rear main seal yet, so that's definitely something I want to get done. I have heard that it is a pretty difficult and lengthy process to do that. If you're on the stock suspension, I think you have to drop the axle to actually take the oil pan out and then get to the rear main seal. Definitely want to end up doing that and see if it's going to fix the oil leak, because this Jeep definitely has one. It's really nothing too noticeable, but whenever I went to look at this Jeep, there was a tiny, like, I don't want to say like puddle, but like you could see that it was kind of like stained in oil. But hopefully replacing the rear main seal will fix that. Another thing that is pretty common but really not a big deal in my opinion is the sagging headliner. So right here you can see it's kind of like separating from the top of the roof here. Like here this part's good, and here it's kind of separating. It kind of happens throughout the whole like roof here. I don't know how well you guys can see back there. It's really not that big of an issue in my opinion. It doesn't bother me at all. I know some people have like custom headliners, which I think looks pretty cool if you do it right. So I don't know, if it ends up completely coming off, that might be something that I end up doing. But right now, it's really not something that I'm completely worried about. One thing that I've heard people say, but I haven't actually experienced myself, is that you actually want to touch the carpet of the passenger side here, because if it's wet, it means your heater core is leaking onto your floor pan right there, and then it's gonna obviously like rot and rust out, and you're eventually going to have a hole right there. So that's also not good. That also brings me back to the whole rust thing. You also want to get down below and not just look at the frame, but also the floor pans. Like I said, just take a good look at them, make sure there's no holes or anything, and make sure it's not completely rusty. These are pretty good. I'm going to get out and show you guys right now what they look like. As you see, there is a little bit of rust, but the main frame and like this part right here, it's really not that rusty at all, so I wasn't too worried about this. Something else that I have not experienced, but I feel like is pretty common, is you want to make sure the Jeep idles well. If it does not idle well, it could be a number of different things. It could be something as simple as just replacing one of the sensors. So that could be an easy fix, but it also might not. So I would be pretty skeptical of buying a Jeep that has a rough idle, because it could be pretty difficult to tell what the actual cause of the problem is. One thing that I've noticed with this Jeep is that the passenger side rear window does not go down at all. Like all three windows go down except for this one right here. I'm not sure what the problem is with that. If anybody knows, definitely let me know down in the comments. It's really not that big of a deal. Of course, I still have the rest of the three windows to put down, but it would be nice to, you know, have a working window. So that's just one other like minor thing that I wanted to talk about. Other than those things, I really can't like think of anything else that I've experienced or anything else that I've heard of. This Jeep was pretty clean whenever I got it. Everything except for like the little rust spots on the underbody. Everything else is pretty clean. The inside's pretty clean of this Jeep, and the outside is pretty clean. Like I said, the only thing that isn't clean is the underbody. That's something that can be fixed, so hopefully we'll get that done sometime here soon. But there really isn't anything that I can complain about with this Jeep. If you find a clean one that's been well maintained, then it's gonna last you a long time, as long as you keep maintaining it, do all the necessary repairs, and don't beat on it. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard that the Jeep Straight 6 4.0s are, you know, bulletproof, indestructible, and some of the other things other than the engine go bad, and those are just things that you're gonna have to repair and replace, just like any other car. But like I said, the 4.0 is definitely bulletproof, so that's probably not really something you're gonna have to worry about. One thing I will mention is that if you have a 2000 or a 2001 XJ, then the heads are known for cracking if the engine overheats. So that's also something you're gonna have to look out for. Correct me if I'm wrong about this, but if you look at the head and it says 0331, then that's a bad head, and that's one that can potentially crack if you overheat the engine. So that's also something to look out for. This is a 2001. It has never overheated on me in the 6 months that I've been driving it. One problem that I have had, maybe like 2 times this has happened, is that I drove it for about half an hour, wasn't driving crazy or anything like that. It wasn't overheating, but whenever I stopped driving, I saw like smoke coming out of the front grille, and it kind of smelled like burnt brakes, but it wasn't the brakes because the smoke was coming from the grille. And also the engine was not overheating, it was just running at 210, which is the operating temperature. So I'm not completely sure what was up with that. One of my friends told me that it could have just been maybe a coolant leak, but I'm not completely sure. If you guys have run into any of those problems or know what could be the issue, then definitely let me know down in the comments, because I would like to get it fixed up. Also, I have done several maintenance things and repairs to this Jeep, and I've posted tutorials on all of those things on my YouTube channel. If you just go to my channel, to my playlist, and click on the Jeep Cherokee XJ videos playlist, that's where you're going to find all my Jeep videos. So definitely make sure to check those out. Some things that I've done are the differential fluid, front and rear, transfer case fluid, transmission fluid and filter, oil change, spark plugs, coil pack, valve cover gasket. I replaced the fuel vapor tube because I had an evap leak and it gave me a check engine light. After I replaced the fuel vapor tube, the check engine light just went away by itself. Some of my future plans for this Jeep, I do want to get it lifted and get wheels and tires. The only downside right now is that the lift kit I want to get has been out of stock for the past few months, so really isn't much that I can do right now. What I want to do is a 3-inch lift kit on 31-inch tires, so I think that's going to look amazing. Here's a picture of what I'm hoping it's going to look like. As you guys saw, it definitely looks a lot more aggressive, and I'm really hoping to get all this stuff done before winter, because I do want to drive that thing in the snow. It's going to be a lot of fun, especially taking it up in the mountains and getting a bunch of snow driving videos for you guys. I'm really excited for that. If you guys have any video suggestions for videos you would like to see in the future, definitely drop those down in the comments. And if you guys have any questions at all, also leave those down in the comments. And if you guys liked this video or found it entertaining, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.